go. I think we are live. Let me know if you can hear me. Today we're going to be going through a lot of Q&As that I've actually written down. Let's see how this looks, everyone. Let's see how this looks. So, first question is going to be how the war is going. Second is when it will end. Third is about the taxpayer support from the U.S. and other places. A lot of people talking about this. And then we're going to get into things like, is Russia really a threat to the USA? Who are all these people who are actually against helping Ukraine? And do they have any valid points? Why Ukraine looks actually like there's no war, at least in Kyiv, from my videos. And then what do we do about winter? And what are my travel plans for next year? So if you guys can see me, please let me know where you're from, what your thoughts are. I'm also going to be answering a couple super chat questions that I've gotten actually already. Let me just pull my notes, guys. So we have it so far from Stephen M89, who actually is in Australia, so he can't be here right now because the time zone difference. And from Amy Sewell. So if anyone else wants to add a super chat, it gets to the top so I can see your question first. But I'll try to answer some other questions, especially if it's on the topic. Jose Medina says, I like the shirt. So this one is another one from St. Javelin. They've done a lot of great things for Ukraine, and they were in one of my last videos, so you can check them out, stjavelin.com. Who else do we have in here? We guys from Benny. Hello, how you doing, buddy? Thank you for being a channel member. There's a few of you in here. And Beverly as well, from Louisiana. How you doing, Bev? What else do we have? Berlin, Guten Morgen, Italy, ciao. So right now, I'm not in Western Ukraine anymore. Someone just asked that just then. I'm in Kiev. This is my apartment. My last video, I know I was in Carpathians coming back, but anyways, I'm here now. Sweden here, Slava Ukraina, Svenska, Homodu, tusen tack for you to be here. We have a lot of Americans, some Canadians, Vegas, New York, Norway, tusen tack, Indonesia, Denmark, mange takk. Malik is from Lviv. Wow. Okay, I can go through this all day, but let's jump into some of the questions right away. If you have any other questions, feel free to chime in. And again, if you want it to be highlighted to make sure I see it, the super chats are always nice. So the first big question is, how is this war going for Ukraine? It sucks. War sucks. I would love to have said, you know, Russia is on the verge of being defeated. They're going to go home with their tails between their legs, and they're going to be demilitarized any day now. But that's not the truth. The truth is, it's a hard war, especially when you're on the offensive. So in general, it takes about 6 times as much manpower or firepower to be on the offensive as it does to be on the defensive. And Russia has had 1 year to set mines, to create trenches, to create their defense. And Ukraine doesn't have really hardly any air support. So it doesn't matter how many tanks you have if you can't drive over mines. You first need to demine a path, and it's very difficult. I think part of the West, the reason why they're so interested in watching what's happening, is they are also curious how to defend against a country like Russia if they ever need to in the future. So I'm going to get into this a little bit later, but one of the reasons why it's taking so long is because the West hasn't given Ukraine everything they need to win the war. They continuously only give Ukraine just enough so they don't lose the war, and so that Russia can continue to weaken itself, to expose their vulnerabilities, and just enough, you know, so they can make progress without losing. And a lot of people are going to say, well, that's messed up. Well, guess what? War is messed up. And it's funny that very few, if any, Ukrainians have ever complained about this. Like, I mean, yeah, sometimes they'll say, yeah, like we want F-16s, like please give it to us. But I think all of them, deep down inside, they know that it's not expected, that it's appreciated. And they would like, in the ideal world, for them to get everything they need to be able to just run through Russia, take back all their territory, and just, you know, and just win. But they also realize that they are in a hard spot where without Western aid, they're going to be fighting with, you know, AK-47s from stockpile. And the second question I want to answer is, how long is this war going to last? The answer to that is either really long, with the kind of a slow trickle of support, even longer if there is a pause, because Russia wants a pause so they can regather strength, they can get their economy going again, they can build, you know, more, they can mobilize more, and then they're going to attack again in a few years. So if you want a short war, if you don't want a war to continue for the next 5 or 10 years, then we actually need to give Ukraine what they need to be able to win. As far as pushing too quickly, the West is also afraid of, you know, escalation and stepping on Russia's, you know, nuclear button. Russia knows they can't use it because they will literally be a pariah for all time. You know, even countries like China, which, you know, or even Iran, or even maybe North Korea. Maybe North Korea might be a fan of it, but, you know, China is their biggest kind of trading partner still. You know, I wouldn't call them an ally, but even China would be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If you go that option, we cannot be associated with you. We cannot work with you because we're gonna be threatened. You know, we're gonna look like we can potentially use it as well, and we're gonna get sanctioned, and if, you know, we might get invaded. So Russia knows they can't use it as an option, but at the same time, you don't want to back a rat into the corner. You have to kind of give it either options, or you have to kind of like let it starve out. And Russia has had a lot of options. People don't realize this, but Russia has had a lot of options to stop this war. First, they never needed to start it in the first place. They didn't need to invade. Before they actually invaded, before February 24th, 2022, I was in the camp of saying, you know what, give Putin, give Russia what they want. You know, just let's appease them so they don't start a war, they don't invade. But after they've actually invaded, it's like they threw the first punch, they took out a knife, they started stabbing the other guy. You can't then try to appease him and you know, talk him out of it. You have to just stop him with force. And more than that, you have to make sure that he doesn't do it again next week. It's like if there was a schoolyard fight or a fight in your neighborhood. Just because a police comes and stops it, or some teacher comes and stops it, that's not enough. You have to make sure that that bully is not going to come back next week with a knife or with a gun. You have to make sure that they can't physically, they can't attack again, or the repercussions, the costs are so high that they won't do it. And that is the goal of ending this war. And at the end of the day, I know 100% from all the Ukrainians I know, they're going to fight this war whether they get Western support or not. So everyone who has an argument, we're forcing Ukrainians to die, for the American proxy war or whatever you call it. Guess what? Ukraine is going to defend themselves regardless. We might as well give them what they need, while weakening our potentially greatest enemy, which is psychopath Russia. So this is a good time to answer super chat question. Stephen M89. He actually asked a couple of them. First is he asked how many of my friends have returned to Ukraine. Actually, a lot of them. Unfortunately, a lot of them either came just to visit and they've left, and half of them haven't come back at all yet. But during summer, a lot of people have come back, at least for brief trips. Second is about future investment strategies and attracting foreigners in Ukraine. I think it's too early. I think we need to wait until the war ends for that. What I think about Belarus. Belarus is basically just a part of Russia. I think of Belarus the same as I would think of Chechnya or Siberia. It's all under Putin's control anyways. And here's a good question: is the Ukraine is basically receiving a lot of debt from the U.S. and other countries through the Lend-Lease Act, through loans. What are my thoughts on that? I think it's a hard situation. I think Ukraine would rather not have all the debt, but at the same time, when they're in this position, they're happy to buy something on a credit card if it's going to save their lives. And I'm happy that the U.S. and other countries are willing to extend that line of credit because they are in a bad situation. If you want to blame anyone, you need to blame Russia. I mean, the kind of disclaimer for all this is, regardless of what I say today, how I explain things, none of this would have happened if Russia didn't invade. They didn't start their full-scale war February 2022. Prior to that, all was kind of forgiven. I mean, even Crimea, yes, there were a portion of Ukrainians who were still upset that Russia illegally annexed Crimea, but as a country as a whole and the majority, they kind of let it go. They're like, you know what, we lost it, it's unfair, it sucks, but we're not going to forcefully take it back. We're not going to do anything about it. But now that Russia's invaded, all that was off the table. So if Russia didn't invade February 24th, 2022, none of this would happen. If they weren't still on Ukrainian land today, none of the bad things would happen. And that's kind of the overall disclaimer. It really is, at the end of the day, all Russia's fault. So Beverly asked if I'm staying in Ukraine long term. Well, I've decided to keep my apartment. I mean, actually, the funny thing is, if you watch me on Instagram, you can subscribe as Johnny FDJ. I did a photo shoot in my apartment, so I had to box everything up. And everyone was like, "Oh, are you selling?" And I didn't even think about that. I was like, "Why would you think I'm selling my apartment?" And I guess most people don't hire professional photographers for their apartment or their home unless they're planning to sell it. But for me, it was my interior designer, Marta. She just happened to be back in Kyiv for the first time since the start of the war. And she wanted to take nice photos to put in her portfolio because now she's working as interior designer in London, in the UK. So I agreed because I thought, I could help her out, but also it'd be nice to have some good photos. Maybe I might rent it out long term next time I go somewhere, but I have no plans of selling. So I do plan on staying in Ukraine long term. But I would, at the end, I'm going to talk about my vacation plans and where I plan to travel to. Yaroslavis Salties says, I'm visiting Kyiv mid-November. Trader Joe's peanut butter cups? Yeah, the dark chocolate ones. If you come with that, please let me know. I'll be happy to meet you up for coffee or something. All right. What other questions do we have? Here's the biggest one. This is the biggest argument people have, of why we should stop helping Ukraine. Taxpayer supports. Are we giving too much tax dollars to Ukraine? Well, first off, it's funny that it's really only Americans talking about it, even though plenty of other countries are supporting Ukraine. But I think the reason why Americans talk about it the most is kind of throughout history. That's been the big kind of talking point to get your politician elected. We're going to lower taxes, or it's going to stop raising taxes. So I need to break this down. First off, there's been 0 new taxes to support Ukraine. The money, the $1 billion that you hear all the time. Secretary Blinken was just here yesterday, actually not too far from my apartment, like less than a mile from here, and he announced another $1 billion aid package to Ukraine. Thank you. And it sounds like a ton of money because, obviously to any of us, $1 billion is a insane amount of money. But we have to realize that the U.S., and now I'm just talking about the U.S., but kind of in general, okay? So the U.S. is a big country, and we're not giving them new money. We're giving them a portion of our annual defense budget. So this money would have been spent on military anyways. If anyone has a problem with how much the U.S. spends on military every year, which is about $800 billion or so, then I support that. Like if you feel like we're spending too much in general on military, that's something that you can argue against, right? But don't all of a sudden bring that as an argument now that we're helping Ukraine with this money, when for the last 10 years you were silent and you didn't care that that money was going to help Israel or helping some other country or used for R&D or whatever it is. So we're just giving Ukraine a percentage of our existing annual budget. So what percentage of that? Maybe about 10% or less. I think it's going to top out around 16% for the year. So we're basically giving a portion, like a slice of the pie. So imagine you have a pizza and you're giving one slice of the pizza to Ukraine and the other slice you keep for yourself. You're not buying a second pizza. You're not, saying, let's raise taxes so we can get a bigger pizza. You're just giving part of your existing, slices to Ukraine. And I think it's a great deal because, like it or not, Russia is a threat. I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt before this full-scale invasion that, this is 2022, 2023, imperialistic ambitions, that's gone. That's something that we used to do, countries used to do. Every country did it. UK, US, Russia, every country, right? Every major country with any power, they all invaded other countries as a land grab for more power, for resources. I thought that's something we stopped doing. And the fact that Russia has now shown that they want to continue doing it, we can't trust them. And we have to, like it or not, have a strong military to deter it. All right, so am I for giving 10% of our existing military budget to Ukraine? No, I think we should give them 20 or 30% because they're doing all the fighting. They're the ones fighting against the West's biggest potential enemy. So yes, I'm happy with that. All right. Secondly, it's not just cash. Like most of it's not cash. I don't know the percentages, but the vast majority of it, 70, 80% of it, 90% of it, is either through like lend lease or loans, which they're gonna get the money back and actually make money from, or it's old equipment that they've now donated. So I don't know if any of it has been new tanks or new equipment or even artillery that has been given to Ukraine. So like, let's go make this, or a very small percentage. Most of it is go into the storage warehouse, take out the tanks that you have that are 10, 20, 30, 40 years old, give that to Ukraine, and then mark down the value of how much it would cost to replace. And that is how much aid we gave them. So it would be like if I donated my 3-year-old, or let's say 30-year-old, MacBook, right? Or my car is probably a good example, right? If I gave my old Cayenne, which is probably worth like 15, maybe 20 grand, like on a good day, because it's 10 years old, it's 12 years old. Imagine if I gave that car to somebody and then I said, all right, how much would it cost me to buy a brand new 2024 Cayenne GTS? $150,000? That's what I'm gonna write down as how much I gave. It's a great deal. That would be a great deal for me. But also, the person getting the old Cayenne, especially if they really needed it, they'd be happy as well, because they're like, well, you know what? I got myself a Cayenne that I didn't have one before. I really needed it. So thank you, right? Gutermed from MAD? M-A-D? What is that? He just said, brave Ukrainians will prevail. Don't listen to stupid apologists. They believe what they want to believe. Slava Ukraine. Thank you. Дякую. And Lars writes fist bump. Thank you very much. All right. So the old equipment that we're phasing out, and then we're ordering new equipment, that's something that we needed to do anyways. Maybe we didn't have to do it this year, but you can't keep ammunition or tanks or jets forever. They have an expiration date. After 10, 20, 30 years, things degrade, you have to replace it. So the US and a lot of NATO countries, they're basically getting they're ordering brand new latest technology and giving Ukraine kind of the older stuff. Now, one of the reasons why we don't want to give Ukraine the latest, greatest too quickly is, first, it takes a lot of time to train people, but second, to set up the repair, logistics, things like that. And with that, if the Ukrainians either aren't properly trained and don't properly use it, like, it looks bad on the battlefield, and that hurts the ability for the U.S. to be the greatest military in the world. First, perception really is important, because when you're the strongest, you don't need to actually fight. You can just have people be afraid of you. Second, look what happened to Russia. They used to have great or good enough military gear, but now that people have seen how terrible it works on the battlefield, other countries don't want to buy it anymore. So in the long run, it's good that Russia is kind of slowly bleeding out. It sucks that Ukrainians have to suffer while this happens, but at the end of the day, every Ukrainian I know would rather continue fighting than to just give up and now pause and then have Russia reinvade in 5 or 10 years once everybody's forgotten about this and the support has died, and Russia gets stronger. Sam Zoman, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. All right. Hello from Tusnia. Wow. Tusnia? I don't know how to say that. All right. So, next question. Is Russia really a threat to the West, to the USA, to NATO countries? Well, first off, let's not even talk about America yet. Let's talk about just countries nearby. Is Russia a threat to other countries in Europe? Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Sweden, Finland, Georgia, Moldova, 100% yes. 100% Russia is a threat. This isn't the first time Russia has invaded another country in the last 10 years, and taken land and illegally annexed land. They have taken land in Georgia, and then in after 1991, when they broke up, they keep bribing territories like Transnistria to stay on the Russian side. I've been to Transnistria, and I've talked to people. I said, why do you guys support Russia? Why don't you want to be part of Moldova? And every single person there gave me the same answer. They said, because Russia gives us either free or cheap gas, which they use for heating and for cooking. They get free cable TV, which is mostly just Russian propaganda channels like Russia 1 and Russia 1, or Previ Russia, which is like First Russia. And they get higher pensions than they would with Moldova. So why does Russia keep them? It's just to have, their hands kind of in many pies, so they can one day return to their imperial dreams. I didn't think, if you asked me 2 years ago, I didn't think Russia was a threat. I thought they're too weak now. Wars aren't fought the way that it used to be, like World War II or World War I. Nobody's gonna start a war. It doesn't make any logical sense. Nobody's stupid enough to start a war. I was wrong, guys. Russia is stupid enough, especially Putin. So yeah, they are a threat to the U.S. And not just Russia. I mean, if you ever ask why the U.S. meddles in, gets involved in other countries, the U.S. actually would rather just everyone be stable and everything be okay, because we can continue just to be happy, live well. But once countries are unstable, especially when they become, communist or socialist or have a dictator, it makes our society unstable. First with energy prices, like it or not, the U.S. relies on gas and oil to function. And if a country decides, screw you, we're going to mess up the supply, we're going to make it super expensive, our economy, our livelihood, our actual lives, out the door. So we need to make sure there's stability in the world. So the U.S. would rather have Russia not have a regime change. I think a lot of people think that America wants Putin dead. We don't. We want just stability. We want him to just stop his war on his own, and them to kind of just stop bothering everyone. That's actually what America wants. All right. So the question is, who are all these people who are against the war in Ukraine? You see it online all the time. I didn't believe this was true until this year, when this war started. I actually had to look into it. Russian bot farms and troll factories, they're a real thing. I didn't think that Russian propaganda machines existed or played that big of a part, but they do. And here's the biggest problem with it is they're paid propagandists who their only real job is to create any kind of doubt or misinformation, and then just hope, or little talking points like anti-Ukraine or pro-Russian talking points, and then just hope that normal, actual real people pick it up and just parrot it. All the pro-Russian people or anti-Ukraine people, I've never heard an original thought from them. It's always almost a copy and paste thought that I read somewhere else. And it's I get hundreds, if not thousands, of comments on my YouTube channel and other places. And it's okay, this week everyone has this narrative, the next week everybody has this, and it's not that they all had that original thought that, okay, this week we're going to attack Ukraine because of so-called Nazis. Okay, oh no, this week we're going to be talking about, about taxpayer dollars. It's it really is. It starts with a Russian propagandist whether it's a bot or just a paid guy, and then gets parroted by people who are unhappy with something else in their life or in their country. So if, there's a lot of people from, India or Africa who are unhappy with their own financial situation, and instead of blaming their own corrupt governments, they're like, let's hate on America for, or let's hate on the Ukrainians. There's a lot of people in the US who are unhappy with their situations with inflation or with their own lives for whatever reason, for a variety of reasons. And instead of focusing on that and fixing that, they're like, it's Ukraine's fault, screw those guys, let's hate on them. And then the other group of people are the ones that just always want to find the hot take or the conspiracy theory or the other side just to be different, because there's always some voice, I guess, some reach if you just take the opposite stance. If I say the sky is blue, there's always going to be someone else who's going to come and say, no, you're wrong, it's green. Or if I say, the world is round, there's always going to be someone that's going to want to argue the opposite and say, no, Earth is flat. Some of those people just want attention. They just want to start their argument because they're trolling. Other people, that's the only significance they can get. There is plenty of politicians or people who kind of want to be politicians or, TV hosts or YouTube, personalities who they want to create emotion and they want to say things that will trigger you just so they can get attention, And unfortunately it works. This is why there's so many MAGA fans, is because they're like, yeah, it's, let's go against everything. We can't trust the government. We can't trust nobody. And here's the thing is there's always a tiny bit of truth in everything, right? But that doesn't mean that the whole U.S. government, you can't trust them. It's like nothing has really changed in the last 500 years. It's just now we have the internet where everyone makes a big deal out of everything. Thank you very much, Eric. I didn't see a question from you, but Sam and Eric, thank you guys so much for the super chats. And here's the kind of the final thought on that is, as much as I don't like the military industrial complex, now I realize it's needed, because without having a strong military, you can't have a sovereign country. As much as I didn't want to believe it, unfortunately, this world isn't always a peaceful place, and you have to be the biggest, strongest one, and be able to defend yourself, or you might get screwed. All right. And second is, even though I don't like those companies getting rich, that money doesn't just go to them. It brings our economy up. After World War, actually I guess after all the wars, after World War I, after World War II, the U.S. economy skyrockets from manufacturing, from creating jobs. So actually it's going to help us, not deter us, not hinder us. That makes sense. So the aviator from Canada says, aside from equipment, how many Ukrainian lives should be spent to win the war? 100,000, 500,000, 1 million. Well, here's the thing. That's not up to us. That's up to Ukraine. Ukraine, it's rude that we all think that Ukrainians can't decide for themselves what they do. I will guarantee you, if Ukraine decided, hey, we want to stop fighting this war, they would stop. It's not up to us. They will fight anyways. So if they're fighting with old Soviet AK-47s that they have, or they're fighting with F-16s, they're still going to fight. It's like us not giving them aid is not going to stop the war. I will guarantee it. I promise you guys this. And if you think that less people will die if Ukraine just gives up. Look at all the places that were previously occupied by Russia or are currently occupied by Russia. Look to see how many people are killed, how many civilians are killed. Not just the military, but like just people living under Russian rule. How many people are raped? How many people have terrible lives because they are under Russian rule? So imagine if Ukraine just said, you know what, we want to stop, take the entire, east of our country. There are going to be 1 million people who are going to suffer or die because they're now under Russian rule. Like, it's not just about the military. It's about the people's lives in general. So it's only up to Ukrainians if they want to continue fighting or not. And they want to. So let's help them. All right, so fun topic, I guess. All right. Why does Ukraine, especially Kyiv in my videos, look so nice? It doesn't look like there's a war happening at all. Well, that's because I live in a city that isn't being occupied by Russia, and we have Western air support. Alexei Bandura, thank you very much. Дякую. If Kyiv had been taken, if the Ukrainian military wasn't able to hold it, it wouldn't look like this. Like, this is the reason why it looks so not good is because Russian soldiers weren't allowed in here. Yes, once in a while we still get missile strikes that unfortunately kill people. Kyiv itself has a really good air defense now, so it's not as, a huge worry these last couple months. Right? But unfortunately, you can't put air defense in the whole country. So just this morning, a market, just like where people were out, shopping, I think 17 people died from a Russian airstrike. And it's like, if that happened once in your country, even just once, 17 people died, it would be a terrorist attack, and it would be all that people talked about for the next 5 years. But in Ukraine, unfortunately, it happens so often that we're like, what are you going to do? What we can do is we can make sure that Russia's punished for this so they can't do it again and again and again. Because I will guarantee you, if Russia was able to take Kyiv and take Ukraine easily without being punished, what would stop them from saying, okay, let's take Moldova? I will guarantee you that would have been next. And then what's stopping China from looking over and be like, oh, nobody did anything to stop Russia from taking Ukraine? Let's just take Taiwan. The US isn't going to stop us. They didn't stop us there. So, yes, Kyiv looks relatively normal. And if you want me to be honest, not everybody is doing as much as they could be doing, right? This hasn't become, it's not like, everybody's selling their shirts off their back and just eating buckwheat every meal and giving 90% of their salary to the military. That, could happen. That would be nice, right? If every single person chipped in. But unfortunately, that's just not how the world works. There's going to be people that just are going to live their lives and say, you know what? I didn't want Russia invading us. I'm just going to live my life. I'm going to enjoy the summer. Especially the men. If you think about it, like, we actually don't really consider them that much. Men can't leave. And I agree that men shouldn't be able to leave. Because imagine if everyone, man, woman, and child, were able to leave Ukraine, what would happen to Ukraine? Nobody would there would be there would be no economy. When the soldiers will come back from the front line, they can't even go to a restaurant or to a supermarket. There'd be no one cleaning the streets or maintaining anything. Like, it wouldn't work. So you have to have people here. And by having the men stay, it gives the women and kids a reason to come back. So I actually agree, whether they get mobilized or not, or whether they're needed or not to fight the front line, it's good that they stay here. So the ones that, you know, aren't militarized, some of them are like, you know what, I just want to go party, I want to go enjoy my life. And at the end of the day, is that the best thing they can do? No. They can be doing more. They can be volunteering, they can be helping, they can be donating more. But not everyone's going to do that, you know. The girls that are here, you know, sometimes you see, you know, photos of, you know, the girls walking on the street. They're, you know, at the beach, at the pool. Could they be doing more? Yeah. But you know what? At least they're still in Ukraine. At least they're here supporting and helping. I will guarantee you this. Whatever you think, however you would act, if you're in the situation and war came to you and your country, I will guarantee you it's going to be very different than how you think you would act. It's very easy to think you're going to do this or that. Once you're actually faced with it, it's very difficult, especially as it goes on, you know, for 550 days and plus. You know, it's easy to say, yeah, I'm gonna volunteer, I'm gonna help do this, I'm gonna get, you know, I'm gonna donate. You guys can be doing it too, right? But how many people are gonna donate, you know, every paycheck? It's hard. How many people are gonna volunteer every single day, every single free day that they have? It's hard. Those people who do it are great. They're angels, but we can't expect everyone to do it. You know, we can't expect everyone to fight. We can't expect everyone to, you know, to be a net positive. At the end of the day, as long as you're not hurting Ukraine, you're not hurting anyone, that's fine. You know, and but what I'm really, really disappointed in are the people, and you can see some of them in the chat, that they're hurting Ukraine. They're hurting people. And some of them just think it's funny. They're just trolling. They're sitting, you know, in their mom's, you know, house, or, you know, they're like, ah, look at this reaction I'm getting. Like, oh, you know, you're a dumbass, blah, blah, blah. You're hurting. Like, not only are you hurting people's feelings that have suffered through this, but you're hurting, like, you're potentially having people die because of your comments. All right. So the aviator says Ukraine has a right to defend itself. However, Western countries have a right to tie peace negotiations to equipment and money. So I don't know how you would tie that. You would say, here's, I mean, I guess you could say that. You could say, we guarantee we're going to give you enough air defense so Russia can no longer bomb your country, but we want you to stop fighting the front line. You could say that, you know, if that's what you want to propose. like you can put that on the table. It doesn't mean that Ukraine is going to accept it. So, you know, and then at the end of the day, I guarantee it's not up to us individually to be able to understand how this works. All right, it's very complicated, guys. So, last couple questions. Winter is coming. Any changes? So part of the reason why I think life looks so easy and nice in Ukraine is because summers here are great. And they were great before the war. So it's not like all of a sudden Ukraine became a nice place in the summer. Like, they were always a nice place. You know, it never gets too hot in the summer. People like walking. There's a lot of nice nature around the Carpathians, as you saw, the lakes. And winters kind of suck, right? Like, when it snows and it's Christmas, it's nice. But, you know, that gray, dark, it's hard, guys. Especially when there's no electricity, there's no heat, because Russia's bombing the infrastructure. I don't understand how anybody can look at that and be like, yeah, go Russia. Go destroy their heating and their electricity. Make them suffer. Like, how viable do you have to be to want other people to suffer? Like, civilians, like little kids, you know, old people. Like, it's insane. All right. Um, Winter is going to be hard, guys. I think a lot of people are going to leave. I think a lot of people came back for the summer, for the nice months, but a lot of people are going to return to Poland, Germany, Canada as refugees, unfortunately. Because if there's no heat here, there's no electricity. It's a burden on the people that have to stay for other reasons, and second, it's just a hard life here. So we'll see how this winter goes. I hope it's not too cold. Another super chat question. Amy Soy says, I know you have roots from Taiwan. Do you have any relatives living there? What are other Taiwanese you know? What are their thoughts and feelings about Ukraine and you being there? I have some relatives there, like on my mom's side. All the ones on my dad's side are in the U.S. now. In general, they've been living through the same thing with China as Ukraine has with Russia for the last, however many decades, since 1949, so like 70 years. And that was one reason why I didn't think Ukraine was actually going to get invaded by Russia is I still don't think China is going to actually invade Taiwan. Even though they pretend they will, or they showboat that they will, they'll literally bring their military assets right to the border. The reason why they don't actually invade is because they can get 90% of what they want from just showing off and saying, yeah, we could invade you. Look how strong we are. A lot of times, the Chinese Communist Party, the politicians do it just as kind of like showing how strong they are, so people vote for them and they feel, wow, China is such a great country. Or to kind of make these threats, say, hey, Taiwan, you're getting a little bit too close to America there. You're getting too close. And it works. And they don't actually have to invade. And Russia could do the same thing. Russia didn't actually need to invade. If Russia didn't invade and they just kind of stayed and showed off, they could have got everything they wanted. They could have got some agreement, saying Ukraine will never ever join NATO, or that we have to, Ukraine has to trade with Russia, has to have these, whatever agreements. They could have got everything they wanted. They didn't actually have to attack. And turns out the NATO argument, the NATO expansion, Russia didn't care about that. Like it made sense. And I was like, okay, if that's what they want, yeah, go, let's make sure Ukraine stays neutral. We don't want to, we don't need provocation for a war. Guess what? Finland, who has like a border with Russia as well, is like basically, if you look at a map, it's right next to St. Petersburg. It's officially part of NATO now. And guess what Russia's response was? Was it, oh, no more NATO expansion? It was like, oh, welcome. Like we don't care. And now Sweden wants to join. And guess what Russia's response is? Is it, Suka, I told you not to expand anymore. No, it's like, oh, whatever. So why would Ukrainian NATO expansion, possible NATO expansion, even talking about it, matter when these other countries actually joining don't matter? And it's because that was never Russia's actual reason for invading. Someone just made a good point. Russia isn't even guarding its borders with NATO, right? Sure would say that. It's true, because they know that NATO can't attack other countries. It's like it's a defensive treaty. So if one of the countries starts attacking others, they get into a lot of trouble. So they actually have more reasons not to attack. Tonya Kangas, welcome. Thank you for coming. Jennifer Lewark. What has surprised me most about living in Ukraine, and how has the language classes been coming? Ooh. So actually, living here surprises me every day. Actually, like just the other day, I tried to give my neighbor who just came back. I haven't seen her since the start of the war. This older woman, she's probably in her 60s or at least late 50s. And I said, welcome back. I bought her a plant as a gift. And I tried to give it to her. I rang the doorbell and said, oh, like, Blaska, here you go. And she's like, no, 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 no. And I was like, what? And I was like, you don't want my plant? And then she's like, she starts talking to me in Ukrainian. And honestly, I didn't understand most of it. And even with the translator app, I was like, I can't tell, why does she want my plant? And I was like, okay, maybe she doesn't want my plant, maybe she's allergic. And then she's like, no, 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 like something about this, like this doorway. And I'm like, she's like, nothing can come into the apartment. I was like, what? Are you under quarantine still for something? Like, is COVID still a thing? I forgot about it. Turns out it's a superstition that you have in Ukraine. And I think a lot of Slavic places, you can't pass something through the doorway. So in America, it would have been rude if I just walked into their apartment without being invited. But in Ukraine, it would be rude if I just handed her something through the door. So actually, she was kind of expecting me just to walk in. Sam Zillman, I missed your question. What did you ask? I don't know how to scroll up. There's so many. Sam, can you ask it again? I'll try to take a look. But so just living here every day is kind of a surprise. As far as the language, I'm telling you right now, Ukrainian is really hard to learn. It's much harder for me to learn than Russian for whatever reason. Even in like Duolingo, which isn't the greatest app, but when I do the Russian lessons and I say the phrase or the word, I always get it correct. When I say it in Ukrainian, even Duolingo doesn't understand me. So it's gonna take a long time, guys. Like learning a language takes a long time. Like unfortunately, it's just gonna take a while, and it makes it really hard because I'm learning Ukrainian and Russian. And for you to, for those who are going to say, oh, just learn Ukrainian, a lot of things are in Russian still. A lot of people speak Shorzik, which is a mix of the two. So you kind of have to learn both, if that makes sense. Will says, I need mods. Thank you for fighting Ukrainian corruption. Guess what? Will, I just made you a moderator. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Okay, I'm going to block these Russian trolls here. All right. What are my travel plans? Oh, no. Here's another question. Kharkiv. We don't hear about it in the news. That's actually why I left Kharkiv and I haven't gone back. It's because when I was there were, I don't think they were artillery. I think we're too far for that. But there were missile attacks really close to my house, like in the city center. And it blew up. Luckily, it hit the street. So it missed the two buildings, but it still destroyed all the windows. Like a block and a half away from where I was sleeping. Like when I was sleeping, I heard it and it shook the entire apartment. I thought it hit my living room or like my kitchen area. It was that loud. But what really shocked me and surprised me was the next day when I was checking on the news to see what happened, wasn't even mentioned. And that's when I realized that Kharkiv is kind of one of the forgotten cities where unless a bunch of people die, like it doesn't even make it to the news cycle. And that's when I realized it's dangerous. So I am not there. I have rented out my apartment to a volunteer. I gave him like a huge discount. I think he's paying like $200 a month or something. It basically just covers like utilities and like some maintenance. But it kind of just, first off, there's not that many people that want to rent it. But secondly, as kind of like a thank you to him being here and helping out. So I'm not going to be going back for at least a few months because he rented it for 3 months. All right. What else? What other question do you ask? Do I plan to travel this winter? Well, that'll go well into my last question I had written out. So I want to be here for Christmas. I like Christmas here. Uh, Surprisingly, like I love summer here, but I actually really like. I miss having cold. I think it's just because for the last 10 years I was living in hot countries like Thailand or Sri Lanka, and every Christmas I was on a beach, and I thought it was cool in the beginning. You know, it was cool in the beginning. It was fun to put on like a Santa hat, be on the beach, even go scuba diving. But now I really appreciate a snowy, cold Christmas. So I hope we have a nice, white Christmas, as they call it. Um, so I plan on staying here. Maybe I'll travel within Ukraine a little bit, but it's so hard to fly anywhere. I mean, if honestly, if the airport was open, I would go to Turkey or Egypt, for a week or two, and then come back. But it just makes it so hard to leave the country. So if I go somewhere, I want to go for 2 months. Stephen Walsh says, "Great stream, sharing my travels. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the super chat." So what I do plan is after New Year's, so probably like mid January, I want to go somewhere warm for a few months. Uh, we'll see. I don't have any plans yet. I didn't buy any plane tickets yet, but you know, maybe I'll go back to Thailand. Maybe I'll go somewhere else warm. But I definitely want to be here for at least part of winter, uh, and definitely for Christmas and New Year's. All right, so I think that's all the questions, guys. If you want to ask any, I'm gonna check the chat right now, and if you want to make sure yours goes up there, if you want to buy me a coffee or a beer or something, you can do a super chat. There's also a link in my description. Uh, what do we have here? Oh, Joe says, "I like the T-shirt. If you guys missed it, this is from St. Javelin. You can get a T-shirt through them, and all the money goes to helping Ukraine. And actually, Zelensky has one of these, which is cool." Uh, Olitsky asks, "Have I been to Odessa this year? Can I even swim in the sea?" So no, I haven't been to Odessa since the war started, mainly because it's dangerous there. Russia's bombing the ports and the city itself. They even hit the city center. They hit one of the cathedrals there. Like, so even being in church, it's like you're not safe. Um, and the ocean was mined. All right, so it was dangerous. But I heard that about a month, maybe 2 months ago, Ukraine kind of put up some anti-mine netting and made certain sections open so people can swim on the beach and just kind of enjoy summer. It's to keep people sane, right? You got to keep your population sane and happy. Like, you know, to anyone who gets mad that Ukrainians are eating out at nice restaurants or, going to McDonald's or going to the beach or the pool, imagine being attacked by terrorists for a year and a half. Like, you have to keep your sanity somewhere, right? So, like, let them be. If you want to be mad at someone, be mad at Russia. But no, I haven't been just because it's dangerous, and I realize also, we have lakes, we have beaches here, we have pools. I might as well just go there and save the trip. Jodes Remes becomes a level 1 supporter. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hellbend, thank you very much for the super chat. Appreciate it. I'm not going to answer anyone's questions that type in all caps, just to let you know. What else here? Code B says Ukraine surprised the hell out of me, to be honest. I love that the citizens came together to help in the beginning of the invasion. Hats off to Ukraine. You know what? Ukrainians really are like they really impress me. Like they're really good people. Uh, every time something bad happens, there's always a group of people that just get together and say, "Okay, dogs and her son need rescuing from the flood. We're there." You know, like I remember one of the videos I made. I was at the animal shelter here in Kiev. It was like one day after the Russia blew up that dam, and all these animals needed a place to go. And one of the shelters just made like a Instagram post and said like, "Hey, if anyone can bring pet supplies, food, water, like for donations, like please bring it to this address." And in the hour I was there, probably like 50 people came with donations. It was really nice. So yeah, Ukrainians are really really cool. All right. Um, Monica Henry says you're a great supporter of Ukraine. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, if anyone who thinks I'm not a supporter of Ukraine, you're probably a Russian troll. Uh, I will admit that before this war happened, before the invasion happened, I was a very different person. I didn't know that much about war or politics. I didn't want to know. One of the reasons why I came to Ukraine is so I can stay away from U.S. politics. But Russia brought it to me, right? Before the war, I went on every news outlet I could find that wanted to talk to an American. And I said, guys, relax. Russia's not stupid enough to invade. Everything's peaceful. Because if you watch the news, in like December 2021, they were already saying, Ukraine is under attack by Russia. Everything's bad. And our economy was tanking. People were scared to do anything in Ukraine. The currency was getting messed up. And when I saw President Zelensky say, guys, like, relax, Russia's not going to invade, like, if he does, who knows when it's going to be? It might be in 5 years, or 5 months, or never. And if we let our economy start hurting now, just from the rumors, then Russia already wins. And that is the reason why I went on some Ukrainian TV stations. I went on RT America, which is an American version of Russia Today, and a few others. And I said, look, I'm in Kyiv. Everything's normal. I don't think Russia's going to attack. There's no reason for Russia to attack. Russia's not that stupid. Well, guess what? I was wrong, guys. But it doesn't change the outcome of anything. Like, it doesn't mean me thinking they're not going to attack suddenly made them want to do it. So, yeah, I wish I had a crystal ball, but at the same time, like, how many millions of people, 40 million people stayed in Ukraine, also not wanting to believe that Ukraine would be attacked. So if you want to call me an idiot, you got to call them an idiot as well. All right. Paul Badger says, planning to go rescue my love in Kryvyi Rih and would like some advice. PTSD is a real thing. Yeah, unfortunately it is. A lot of people, especially in the East, have been through so much that it's hard for them to have a normal life or a normal, just like, be able to, sleep well. Kachka has been having insomnia again. She's back. And I told her, I was like, look, if you want to stay in my guest room anytime, like, if it makes you feel safer being in the center, you're welcome to. There's free psychologists now. A lot of people volunteering for that. But, a lot of times it's just having, like, someone there that they can talk to, just, so they know that they're not alone, that somebody will be there to help them. Like, that helps. I also want to mention a new movie that just came out. Actually, it's a documentary shot by one of the journalists two of the journalists from AP, Associated Press. And it's called 20 Days in Mariupol. I saw it in theaters here. I think it's going to be in theaters across the U.S. If it's not, contact your theaters and have them play it. Excellent documentary. Probably the first time ever someone was able to be in the war zone for the first, 3 weeks and actually film it. So everything that they filmed, it's just is like there's no acting, there's no sets. It's actually them like in Mariupol, not knowing what's gonna happen, and it's a really good movie because you know it's called 20 Days in Mariupol, and it just shows day by day uh, what they saw and the escalation of it. And not to give away anything, but the first few days when it's kind of unknown what's going to happen, that's how I felt too. And then like once you get to a point where you're like, oh shit, this is real, then you all of a sudden you're like, fuck, it's real. All right. Joshua Sabota says, John, my parents-in-law have been living with us for 18 months in the U.S. with the war, and I don't like living here and don't want to go back to Sumy. How do you feel it's safe now? That's actually a really valid point. A lot of people, a lot of Ukrainians don't want to be refugees or don't want to be a bother living with someone else, whether it's friends or family or at a center or even on their own somewhere. They want to go home. And honestly, I think that going back to anywhere near the front line, I don't know how far Sumy is from the points, but let me take a look. Yeah, it's way too close. It's like kind of it's, if anyone didn't look it up, it's right above Kharkiv. Also, like probably 20 kilometers or from the Russian border. It's just too dangerous. I would suggest if they want to go back to Ukraine to do it, but to stay somewhere further away. Kyiv is safe, obviously, relatively, right? Western Ukraine is super safe. Lviv is, even though I was there the day that they bombed that kindergarten and all the, residential buildings around it, the chances of dying from that are still relatively small. I wouldn't go to Kharkiv or Sumy or, anywhere kind of near that front line area, especially not anywhere within artillery range, let's say that. Odessa, I would probably not want to risk it, but if they really want to go home, I understand. But yeah, I would tell them you can go back to Ukraine, but don't go to Sumy right now. Unfortunately, Jose Mendia says Mikado Media is on the way to you. Are you going to connect? Good morning, Kyiv. We're joining him in his travels, 10K from the front. So I have a rule where I won't go into artillery range. I don't have any shrapnel vests, and I don't want it because I don't want to be in that situation. I'll leave it up to the actual war journalist to be that close. Guys, I'm not a war journalist, and I don't want to be. I'm just telling you right now. I just happen to be a guy with a YouTube channel that lives in Ukraine. And I want to show you the beautiful parts of Ukraine. I want to show you the people. I want to highlight some of the volunteers. I want to show, what life is like here so people don't forget about Ukraine. But I'm not the one. I don't work for AP. That's not my desire, So, but I will meet up with Mikado. I would definitely go back on Good Morning Kyiv. That was fun, though that was way too early to wake up. And I don't know if it's going to be this time or next month, but thank you guys. We've actually raised enough money for that NAFO truck. So he might even be driving it over this time. I don't know if they can get it ready by then, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna end this soon because it's been a while. Oh, actually, I got another super chat. Eli, Johnny, is it wrong for the entire EU to only have gave 53 billion military aid while the US has given 46 million in military aid? So I don't know what percentage that is. EU GDP, I guess. 17 trillion, while the US, what does the US say, GDP? 23 trillion. So actually it's not that different. yeah, it would be nice if the EU gave more, especially because it's so close uh, to Ukraine, so they're actually even more in danger. But it's not just military aid. Um, the EU has helped a lot with refugees, has helped a lot with like other types of support, training, um, like logistics. You know, so yeah, it would be nice, right? But at the same time, um, the U.S. is the number one military in the world, so it makes sense that they would be able to give the most. All right. So I think that's it, guys. Thank you so much, Diakuyu, for watching, for supporting. I'm sorry about the few trolls that have been in the chat. Don't let them get to you. I try not to let them get to me. It's always hard when they say stupid things, or they try to say things just to throw me off track, or make me feel bad, or make me feel like, even for a split second, that helping Ukraine is the wrong thing to do. That's because they want to drag you down to be unhappy just like them. That's because there's something else happening in their life that they're unhappy about. Like, for someone to want to actively hate on or hurt, people who are trying to help um, a country at war, it's insane. So I'm not gonna stop, guys. Like, I've been helping Ukraine every day since the start of the war. It's been almost 600 days now. I'm not gonna stop just because some troll says read something. Um, I want to stop, to be honest. Like, I wish this war can end and I could just go back to my normal life. Um, but while it's happening, I'm gonna do whatever I can to help. There's a lot of things that I've done that I haven't even talked about yet, or haven't been delivered yet, like that NAFO truck. Um, Actually, just today, I bought a laptop for this family. I didn't post it anywhere because I ordered online, so I don't have the actual laptop. But um, there were that family that you saw in that children's hospital in Cherasky, if you guys remember that. And she came from Bakhmut, and that baby almost died. It was so small. It was under that light. So she actually has like 4 kids, and they have one phone. They have one phone that they all try to do their homework on. And she asked me, she's like, "Hey, do you know anyone who has like a used tablet um, or like a computer?" And I was like, "Yeah, don't worry. Like, I'll send you guys something." So I ordered a laptop for them. Hopefully it'll come soon. So I'm just trying to help, like, however I can, right? Honestly, like, I'm not gonna be able to keep pulling money out of my own pocket forever either. So I do hope this war ends. I hope everyone can go back to living their normal life. But at the end of the day, if we all just chip in a little bit, we can make a big difference. All right. So, anyways, thank you guys so much. Love you guys. Take care, and let's hope Ukraine has a good victory. Slava Ukraine. See you guys in the next one. Bye bye.